Hello, hello, and welcome back. Welcome to day number 2 in our feminine power class, reclaiming our feminine power and all of the power pillars that we get to work with in our lives as embodied, wise women. So today is day number 2. If you did not see day number 1, you are welcome to go watch it. All of these 3 videos will be held in the units section of, of this group under the Feminine Power class. So if you go to units and feminine power class, you will see the video from yesterday as well as some questions to think about and also the fun game that I want to play with each of you that are here. I would love to invite you to show up when I post these invitation posts. So yesterday was posting a picture of your amazing, beautiful self and something you love about yourself. So every day here we will have, these 3 days we'll have a fun invitation to show up and bring yourself here, and there will be a gift for the women that are showing up, and there'll be a raffle for a fun gift to be able to work with me in thanks for showing up and bringing yourself fully to the table here. That's really what this is about, is being able to bring yourself fully to the table and be seen. Being seen is such a big part of really stepping into our beauty, our grace, our power as women, to feel confident in being seen. So I am challenging you to be seen. I just don't use the word challenge because I don't like that word very much. I don't resonate with it. So I'm inviting. So day number 2. As you're jumping on, as you're watching the replay, let me know you're here. I'd love to know who's with me and who's watching. And also who's watching the replay. So let me know you're here and that you're watching. Let me know what you're getting out of this. And it's just such a wonderful gift to be able to give ourselves, to really step into our full power. Life is calling us to do so right now. We are being called as women to step into our leadership, the leadership of our lives. Yay! Hello, Angelique. Hello, Nicole. Hello. Are you two friends? I think you're both from Ontario, in the same area of Ontario, maybe? I'm not sure. Maybe you two know each other already. Let me know if you guys are. I'd love to know. So, yes, we are being called, women, into leadership, into the leadership of our own lives, into the leadership of moving into first leading ourselves in our own lives. Oh, neighbors too. Love that. Wonderful. The leadership of our own lives and claiming our own lives and the directions and the intentions and the moment-to-moment purpose of our own lives. And then to, if we're called to, move that leadership farther out in what we're doing in our lives, how we're showing up and actualizing in a larger soul purpose. Our self-leadership absolutely echoes out through our day-to-day, through our choices, through the modeling, through the boundaries that we're activated to create, through the shaping of our lives. We are leading our own personal lives, and that echoes out and creates changes and ripples. It teaches. And then there's that other level also of, if we step into leadership with our work and our purpose, that is another level of leadership. But it starts with leading our own lives, leading ourselves in our own day-to-day living. And that is a huge aspect of what this second wisdom is, the second key in the unfolding and the unlocking of our feminine power pillars, is reclaiming. Now, that word to me feels so powerful. It's an action, it's a verb, something that we do over and over and over with every choice. And this practice is something that we, all are probably on different levels of experiencing that power of reclaiming our lives. Some of us may just be starting. Some of us are actively in a state of redefining through reclaiming. And it is a very embodied word. It requires us to be very present and aware of our desires and aware of what we want, to reclaim these aspects of what we want. And I wanted to say something about the word remember, because that also has a really powerful resonance to it in a different way. And I didn't mention it yesterday, so I wanted to mention it today. So remembering, we have a mental ability to remember. We have this physical, visceral experience that we can feel as we remember deeper parts of ourselves, these more ancient aspects. And then there is also breaking the word apart. So putting re and then a dash member. And this is such a powerful experience of recognizing that through the centuries, these different aspects of ourselves, these different pillars that we talked about yesterday, are like members of our body and members of our psyche that have been scattered around us. It's like different limbs. Sorry to be visceral like that, but different limbs that have been, tossed off, cut off, and are around us. And the act of remembering is also the act of choosing, sitting with, finding each one of these members, these pillars in our lives, recollecting them all, placing them all back into our bodies. We're remembering, we're putting our member back together, this physical body, this psychic body, bringing all of those cast aside elements, these members, into our sovereign community of ourselves. So it's also another very powerful way to kind of feel the word remember. So, reclaiming. So reclaiming in our lives is anchoring into this position of self-leadership. It is becoming aware of each one of the power pillars that I shared yesterday. Becoming aware of each one of these power pillars being an integral, important aspect of our essence that's already there. We have all of those elements within us right now as a woman. And we are in this journey of reclaiming those elements of ourselves. We are putting a stake in the ground for ourselves and saying, each one of these parts of my being, I am actively choosing to bring back into my life on a day-to-day basis. The awareness around each of those things. The awareness around the womb. the relationship with our menstrual cycles, our hormonal cycles, the relationship that we have, and the invitation to more pleasure and to discovering our desire. The commitment and the showing up for our sacred self, the embodiment of the priestess, of the presence, of who we are within this mystery. Showing up for ourselves as our feeling self, allowing feelings to be present, committing to learning how to work with our feelings as a guidance system for us. It is reclaiming this wheel through our awareness, through our actions, through our choices. And this is a practice. This is something that we get to do, something that we actively choose to do. Say yes to ourselves. Yes, I am putting a stake in the ground for this whole woman that I am becoming. Are you feeling that right now? Let me know in the comments. Are you feeling that that is where you are in your life? Are you in that place right now where you are ready and actively bringing these things back in? Are you just beginning to say, peek yourself out and say, okay, there are these other parts of me. I feel them. I know they're in there. I want them in my life. How do I do this? Are you in that place? Wherever you are, knowing that it is absolutely perfect and beautiful, and that you are on a journey. We are all on a journey as women in this process of reclaiming. And the feminine, the power of the feminine is birthing through us and calling each of us to show up through our longings, through our dreams, through our unrest, through the discontent, through the parts of ourselves that are no longer willing to live a life that is smaller and less meaningful than we know that this life is. The part of us that knows somewhere inside that there is something else here, and there is something else within myself that I am absolutely ready for. Even if I don't know what the heck that is, or what she looks like, or what she feels like. This feminine power is birthing through us as women and showing up in a way that is stirring the pot of our lives, because she needs to come back to the planet. Because we as a species need the whole woman to balance out what's been happening. So know, wherever you are, if you are in that place of unrest and discomfort, that is totally just where you're supposed to be. And it's a sign to make some change, create some movement. Angelique says, I'm ready, willing, and able. Yes, sister, I'm feeling you so strongly in your rising power right now, in everything that you're saying yes to. Yes, with the right support systems. And that is such an important piece in this growth process, that we work with women, that we work in sisterhood. I'm going to remove the word work, that we experience this journey with mentorship, with guidance, with that beautiful, gentle accountability and reflection that comes with being in a group of women doing this together. So powerful. Nicole, I'm ready for a change to be a best example of femininity for my daughters. Yes. Yes, Nicole. It is such a powerful place to be a mother to a girl. Right now, I also have a little girl, and we are in a position of being bridges to a whole new world for our girls in so many ways, and to step into a place of our own power so that we are then modeling that by living our lives for the girls that are around us. Even if we don't have daughters and we're here, for the girls that are in our lives. Through our actions and our own learning, we are being models, and that ripples out in the creation of what's yearning to come through and what this world absolutely needs, in the birth of the feminine reclaiming itself through us. Yes. So reclaiming, and what does that look like? What does that feel like, even? You know, it really is this verb. It is a practice. We have so many layers of stuff from our past experience, from growing up in this culture. All the many things that we've learned that have kind of put like this thick layer of dust, rubble all over the true nature of who we are as women. It's like this, the temple of our deep femininity has been covered with rubble. And this active practice of reclaiming is taking off these pieces stone by stone, and some of the stones are big and heavy and hard. Other are small stones. Then there's just dust. We can get to start to blow it away. But it is a practice. And one, I have been working with this for a very long time, and it continues to be a practice in my life every day. I'm more aware of it in the moment. It doesn't shake me the way that it has in the past, but it's still a practice. So, these layers of who we feel like we are supposed to be a good woman, a good wife, a good mother, who we think we're supposed to be successful. The layers of shift and change and morphing that we have had to create to show up in a culture that is predominantly running from the mind, a culture that is black and white, this or that, a culture that has downplayed our feelings and shamed our feelings. All of the shame that we have grown up around our sexuality and our pleasure. All of the guilt we have around self-care. How can we take care of ourselves? I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be doing this for my husband, for my children, for my work. If I'm not successful. If I'm not doing these things, I'm lazy. If I don't work hard, I'm not going to get anywhere. No pain, no gain. You're too emotional. You're too much. You're too sensitive. Who here has heard these things from the outside growing up? It's almost inescapable, really. Even if we didn't grow up with parents that placed this on us, or we're not in a job where we have to pretend that we're not cyclical and that we're consistent every day the same, which we're not. It is a cultural, it is a bed that we have been sleeping in for a long time. Yes, Nicole. I have as well. I'm curious, Nicole, for you, and of what's some of the stuff that comes up that is the most challenging around all of those things for you in your life right now, if you feel like sharing. So this is a bed we've slept in and that we're now waking up from and shaking it off and saying, no more. I am ready to feel who I am without all of this. And that's a first choice. That's a big, big first choice. And then there is all of the choices that we experience to actually live that and reclaim that. So we have all of the thought patterns in our minds that come up when we try to create the changes. So we look at the feminine power pillars and we see these are all things that I am going to bring back into my life. And then we try to make, we not try, but we decide to start making changes, and then the thought patterns come up. The thought patterns that are echoing those things that we have grown up around. The thought patterns that us telling ourselves, you can't take care of yourself right now, you have to go do that. Us telling ourselves, even though you're bleeding today and you're tired, get up out of bed. Keep going, push. You have stuff to show up for. Rather than saying, I'm going to stay here for an extra 10 minutes even in my bed and drink my tea. These changes can be small even, and the voices will be present. So the reclaiming is not only actively saying I'm ready to make different choices and learning how to make those different choices in your life personally. That is something I work with in my work with people, my one-to-one and my programs. We're each unique and we each have different circumstances. And these changes that we create in our lives can be very simple. They need to be very simple, especially right now. So that reclaiming is making those different choices, finding out how can I make different choices in my life, learning about that, and then working with the thought patterns that come as you're making those different choices. So that is also a part of this rubble, this dust upon our temple, is the thought patterns that we choose to actively work with when we say yes to this work. When we say yes to this journey, we are saying, I am going to work with these thought patterns that come up. Some are old thought patterns that are just ready to say goodbye. I've already worked with you. I see you. I'm ready to let go of you. You don't have power over me anymore. Some are ready and old to just slough off. And some are ones that are still wounds that need our love, that need our attention. that need our ability to sit with and acknowledge and work with. So it too can become an old skin to slough off. And there is layer upon layer. And when we work together, when we work in groups, when we work with mentors, there is an element of being able to actively be in this verb of reclaiming in a container. So it doesn't feel overwhelming. So that you're held and reflected and seen in the transformation. There's so much power in that. So when we go around the wheel and the power pillars, as far as reclaiming goes, I'm going to touch upon that quickly. So reclaiming our womb space. This womb space is a part of our femininity, the ground of our creative power and pleasure that we have been separated from in our lives. We have chosen to separate from, we have been, disembodied from for various reasons. And reclaiming this is a choice to reconnect with her as a powerful part of your body, as a incredible, mysterious ground that when we choose to retouch and reconnect is this feeling of, I can't believe that I have been walking in my life without connection to her. She provides an ability to respond and exist in our lives that is entirely new. It's a part of our power. And I've been working in a meditation activated embodied meditation group for the last 3 weeks now with a group of women where the intention is all about connecting into womb space, and the healing and the power and the pleasure that comes forth when we connect here. We are choosing to actively reclaim this place by each of us saying yes to this program. And what comes forth is miraculous and surprising and simple. This part of us that is present all the time. That with practice we can learn to drop into with a breath and become more grounded in a totally new way. And then our feminine power through our menstrual cycles. So there is absolutely superpowers in our hormonal cycles. And the act of reclaiming those superpowers, of knowing each week there is incredible purpose and meaning to what is happening in our bodies biologically. And each of those weeks is giving us a gift to work with. Becoming aware, learning about these gifts, learning about the science, reclaiming this aspect of ourselves as a part of our sacred rhythm, is putting on this cloak of superpowers that exists in our bodies all of the time, that we generally are just taken by. I'm curious out there, how many of you already follow your cycle or work with your cycle? If you do, let me know. Press a 1. If you don't, and you're curious, press a 2. There is an incredible amount of wisdom and power that we have to reclaim by aligning our lives with the wisdom of our hormonal cycle. And I absolutely love talking about this and working with this. It's been a huge part of my regrounding and re-empowerment as a woman. And I'm actually excitedly starting my course around this again in 2 or 3 weeks, which I'll be talking more about tomorrow. So there's reclaiming the superpowers of our menstrual cycle. There's reclaiming our pleasure. Angelique says, 1, I've only just begun. You ignited that curiosity. Ooh, fun, Angelique. There's so much wisdom there. Yes. So reclaiming our pleasure as this act of day to day saying, wait, Nicole, 2, it would be nice to be empowered by it rather than feel burdened. Is this bad to say? Nicole, absolutely, honey. Absolutely. It can be really, 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 really hard. And, most of us grow up with this feeling like it is a burden, that we have this resentment towards it almost because it's can be really hard. And an element, I think, of it being really hard is that we are expecting ourselves to show up in the same way. And we are not in the same way every week hormonally. And the pre-bleed week and the week that we're bleeding, neurochemistry changes. We don't have as much serotonin. We don't have as much of the happy chemicals. We are brought into this deep place. We don't have as much testosterone, so we're not as energized. Biologically, there is so much going on that we don't know about. And we've grown up in a culture that has expected us as women to show up the same week by week. And because of that, we judge ourselves. We judge ourselves in our cycle. And we don't like it because it doesn't feel good. So the power of reclaiming the time when we know we are in a more of a sensitive time, and gently allowing that to happen slowly. And we're moms, we can't just say, okay, I'm going to go take hours in bed. And, it's not about necessarily even needing more time, although it's nice to be able to give ourselves some time during that period. But an understanding of ourselves, the empathy with ourselves, that makes it not such a burden, even if it still feels hard. I mean, this menstrual cycle, I got my ass kicked by my PMS. I'm just coming out of it. It was really, really hard. And with the difficulty that I was feeling emotionally, I was present with myself and feeling like, okay, this is uncomfortable. This is hard. This is what's going on right now. Because this is what's happening with my hormones. And I'm going to not spin out the stories of how, all the self-judgment that can happen. I'm not going to spin out the stories and question my life, break it apart like I used to. I'm just going to sit with these raw emotions, even if they're uncomfortable. And even lean into them a little bit. And we really go into this in my program that's up and coming. I could talk about this for hours. But yes, it's not bad to say, Nicole, because we have been trained to feel like it's a burden. It was called the curse for so long. It's the connotations around it are so negative that we've grown up with. Other elements of our cultural making that's created something that's bad out of something that's a natural wisdom and rhythm in our bodies that is there to be empowered by when we know how to. So yes, there's that. Moving into pleasure. So reclaiming our pleasure, reclaiming the choices that we're making about our lives, how we take care of ourselves in the midst of our days. I'm going to share a PDF today that's all about, the to-do and the to-be list. So we're very good at making to-do lists, checking things off the list. We have stuff to do. Our self-care generally ends up at the bottom of the list, and, whoever gets to the bottom of the list in reality. So reprioritizing our self-care as a point of our pleasure, and learning how self-care can be brought into our lives in a very simple way. It doesn't require more time necessarily. It requires a shift of our perception and our priorities and how we work with the moment. So as I say, really, being able to be in a moment and recognize it as an opportunity to feel more pleasure rather than be swirling in our minds, which we're so used to doing. And so the PDF, the pleasure and self-care next to the to-do list and prioritizing, we have these things to do and this is the self-care, rather than being at the end of the list, side by side, and seeing where we can fit in our to-do lists, little moments of self-care, where we can experience something that we're doing from a place of pleasure as well. So I'll be sharing that PDF today. You can print it out and put it on your wall as your new to-do list, to-be list, because it's important that we have them side by side and we commit to making different choices so that we are nourishing ourselves throughout the day. So that is pleasure and desire, finding out what it is that we desire, retouching with that. And that doesn't mean necessarily erotic pleasure or sexual pleasure. It's the desire of, even like, what's our favorite tea? And I'm going to make sure that I have that tea around me all of the time because it makes me feel this way. These simple little tweaks that we can make for ourselves when we prioritize our own pleasure and we know what we desire. That is a simple act of reclaiming. Buying that tea that you know that you love and making sure that you get 10 minutes a day to really sit with that tea and really smell it and feel it in your body. And then the sacred embodiment and the presence with ourselves and our divine selves, the reclaiming there is really, that is such a personal experience. But the act of practicing some level of connecting into your pause, to your sacred divinity on a daily basis. And that might be, taking a longer shower and having that moment in the shower when your kids are not in the bathroom, hopefully. And you have some time to really feel your connection to yourself. Could be going for a drive, and amazingly, it can also be, sitting at an altar space or meditating outside or, going for a walking meditation. But grounding into that place within yourself that feels the pause, even if you're moving. And then reclaiming our feelings, reclaiming our intuition. This place of really allowing ourselves to know that our emotions are an intelligence. Being a fierce feeling woman, there is an emotional intelligence that is incredibly powerful and is a gift of being a woman. An element of reclaiming that is to be in connection to our menstrual cycles and reclaiming the week before we bleed and the couple days that we're bleeding as a powerful place of really feeling into our lives. And through that, we are guided when we allow our feelings to move through us, when we're allowing and reclaiming the spaces where we are feeling and knowing that that's okay, that it's powerful and beautiful, and finding the tools to be able to work with the feelings so they don't get stuck, so they're moving through. So that we're not hooked in stories, but actually just feeling These are all tools we can learn to reclaim the landscape of our emotional intelligence. And when we're in that space, we are more in touch with our intuition. When we're more in connection to our menstrual cycle, we're more in touch with our intuitive self. When we're more in our body, we're more connected to our intuition. And the reclaiming is the practice. That moment of, if you're feeling something, not just tossing that out the window and like, oh, that's crazy. Or if you have a body response to some choice that you have to make, listening. Allowing the whole being to be a part of your process. And not letting the mind be the one that's ruling the show all the time. Our mind really wants to be the controller here. The mind that wants to control things. The mind that tells us our emotions are bad. Those are old stories that are going to unravel for you in your experience of the practice of reclaiming your feminine power. They will unravel. And the practice is choosing. The reclaiming is choosing. Being aware in the moment, this is an old story. This is not something I am walking forward with. Knowing, is it something that I need to put my attention towards? Is it an old story? But in the moment, before your action is changed by the old story or the old thought pattern, having an awareness there, that is a split second of reclaiming. And then eventually the different choices come in. But even starting with that awareness in itself is a powerful act of reclaiming your feminine power. So all of these elements in the feminine power wheel working together, all of these pillars interweaving into this beautiful weaving that we are, this tapestry of the feminine. And the reclaiming of each element of these things in our lives is the moment-to-moment awareness and the ripple of the choices and all of the amazing new habits and patterns and self-care and pleasure and enjoyment and deepening and confidence and clarity and self-love and self-forgiveness, alignment that we get to experience from the practice. The practice itself is the process, is the destination. There is no place to get. We are here right now through being here, listening, sharing this moment, through the different choices you will make, through the different awarenesses you will bring into your life, and through how that will ripple out in reclaiming the beauty and the power and the wisdom that you are. So I'm going to leave a moment here for any questions that may come forward. I'm curious, out of the feminine power pillars, which one do you feel the most drawn to work with? If you could type that in as you're watching. Is it the womb wisdom? Is it the cycle wisdom? Is it your pleasure and your desire? Is it your feelings and your emotions? Is it your sacred embodiment? Is there one when you hear each of those that your body says, that's the one? Or when you hear them all, do you feel all of them? I want to work with all of them. If If you want to share in the comments, I'd love to know. So, in all of the work that I do with women, we touch upon all of these power pillars. We go into all of these power pillars. And then there are certain programs and experiences where we dive into one of these more intensely. Yes, Angelique, I want them all. You, yes, and I see you diving into all of them. Beautiful woman. Yes, so working with the two areas that I'm working with the most deeply right now are the womb wisdom and womb groups. And in my upcoming program, which is going to be starting at the end of this month, yes, is a deep dive into leaning into and learning about our menstrual cycles, our hormonal cycles as our superpowers week by week, and also within that, diving into each one of the power pillars. And it's a 6-week program, which is amazing. And it's also a sisterhood. So I would love to invite you to check it out. I'll be talking more about it tomorrow. And yeah, I'll leave the link to it in the comments here, and you can peruse, see what you think. So I would like to know also, what is one thing you are going to do today that you will do in the verb of reclaiming your life? What is one choice that you're going to make today in all of those power pillars within that is reclaiming an aspect of your life? And one thing that you will do. That is going to be our invitation question for today. So thank you. I don't see any questions coming in, but thank you so much for spending this time this morning and feeling into all of the amazingness that you are as a woman, peeking into all the possibility within yourself, and taking some time to really honor where you are on your path as a woman in this rising tide of the feminine by choosing to be here. Sending blessings to each and all of you, and I will see you soon. See you tomorrow, same time.